this is Roger, thanks for dropping by. Kitchen time, and I've given up saying I'm not repotting anything else this year because it just keeps changing. So yet another repot. Cheers, it's late in the day and I've been busy. And I put this to one side while I was filming the last video, and I think I'm going to go out tomorrow, and if I do it'll be all day. It's the New Forest show, which I'm usually there because we have a display there. Bournemouth Orchid Society puts on a display, and it's been really weird this year because it's the one place where we actually buy in plants wholesale to sell on. Yeah, it's the one place where we can really. And what happened this year was the place where we normally get them from had put their prices up to such an extent that we wouldn't have been selling them viably. We can only get Phalaenopsis, and they can be bought cheaper in the supermarkets and stuff, so why would people pay us more for the same, basically the same plant? So we decided we're not selling this year, and I decided I wasn't going to go. I normally go for one day, you know, where you actually stay with the stand and talk to people, try and get them to join as members, all that sort of stuff, and they ask questions and you answer them, that sort of thing. Well, most of the time you answer them, or you waffle. But basically this year, because we weren't selling, we weren't entering competitively. I don't quite know how those two go together, but anyway, this year it was just a display, that was all. We ended up getting judged and got a gold medal when we didn't even think we were in it, if you know what I mean. So they got a gold, which I'm pleased about, but I've never been to the show. Every time I go there, I'm sort of stuck with the orchid display. And although you can spend a bit of time and have a little wander, you know, get a burger or, you know, get a beer or something, you know, but you're supposed to stay there really. And I thought I might just go to the show tomorrow. But it opens at 8. And quite honestly, if I don't want to sit in a massive traffic queue to try and get into the car park, I need to be there around that time. It's about a half an hour drive. It's not a ridiculous amount of time or distance or anything. It's not far away really. But if I can get there that sort of time of day, I like that time of day. And it should be quieter. I can get myself some breakfast somewhere, bacon roll and a coffee, you know, and have a leisurely look round the whole show instead of just being stuck in one tent. So I might do that tomorrow. The weather doesn't sound as though it's going to be bad. Not hot, bit of cloud, remote possibility of a shower. So I may just get up and go, but that has meant in preparation, I've had to be busy today. So this was put to one side. This was one of the Brassias I got at Burnham's, and you should be able to see, if I can catch the light, it's absolutely smothered in aphids. Yeah, it's covered in the flipping things. So this is a 2-stage repot. It's actually got a name. It are Brassias Santa Barbara. Actually, no, I can nearly read that. It's one of the parents is Brassia Rex. That one I do know. The other one, the label's so faded, I don't know. Which, again, as I said in my last video, makes me think this is one of Sarah's own. So that it's as though that label was printed at the nursery a long time ago. If anybody can make out what those first two words are, I doubt if you will. I can't, and I'm reading it without reflections and things. Anyway, it's got Brassia Rex in it, which is where it probably gets its size from. 2-stage repot. We play What's in My Pot, which will be roots. Told you. Some things are predictable. And this bark is not old. This is new bark here. We've got a couple of pseudo bulbs. Sarah, you are lazy sometimes. It does have a bit of a mushroomy smell, I must admit, which I'm surprised at because this is good bark. Well, let's give it a Fausty smell rather than a mushroom smell. But this tiny little pseudo bulb down here is coming off, and so's this one. So we'll get that done now. That'll take a few roots off as well, out of the centre of the plant. Get me near a rhizome, you know what I'm going to do. Squeaky clean. This is what we like to see. Right, I've got a little tangle of roots out of my hair. Now the two-stage repot is for a reason. These roots are dry and brittle, yeah? And I'm going to have to try and get some of these in another pot that I don't want to be huge. So I need them to bend, or at least bend to a degree. I don't know how much they will bend. I've got to go incredibly careful of my nice new growth down there. We don't want to break that off, do we? Along with its newly starting roots. You've got two just started. Where's my camera? Two roots just starting there, and nubbins of where there's more to come. So this is the important bit of the plant, quite honestly. This bit's done its job now. Keep it plump, yeah, but its spikes come off. So stage one is give this a good wash under the tap, clean these leaves up, get the bugs off, and shine these leaves back. They're sticky. They've got like that honeydew all over them. So get them clean again so that they can breathe. And the next stage is to soak that plant, actually stand it in some water for an amount of time to get as much water into these dry brittle roots as I possibly can. There are older roots on here in this area that have gone, yeah, so there'll be some trimming to do below this bulb, possibly a bit below that bulb, but once we get to here, this is good stuff. From that point forward is good stuff. Now some might say, well, why don't you take that bulb off? Because it's still got two active leaves on it, and it would reduce the strength of the plant from 4 to 3. Well, that's a quarter, isn't it? So my maths was never much good. Anyway, it's a chunk of the plant that would be taken off. It would be a lot easier to get in the pot if it was gone. And I may change my mind in a minute and actually say blow it, it's coming off. It's got no active roots on it. If you look at it in cross section, it's coming off. It's totally shriveled, so it is coming off. That's going to make potting it a lot easier. Gets rid of nearly all the old roots, and leaves me with the better roots, the ones that probably don't. There's hardly any of these need trimming, just a couple. I'd love to know what this turquoise stain is. It's going to be some sort of slug killer or something, I suspect. But whatever it is, it's a bit psychedelic, isn't it? You can sort of see it in there. Look, it's got to be some sort of. Perhaps it's where there were some slug pellets or something at one time, and it's left a stain. And there's several other plants that have got that on them as well. Right, you can come off. How are we doing here? Not bad. For such a large root system, I'm not taking that much off. But the beauty of seeing it like this is it does branch. Yeah, that's good, because if these do happen to break getting them in the pot, I know they're going to branch. But anything that's ridiculously long is pointless leaving it. It's only going to snap. I'd rather trim it nicely and neatly and get it to branch naturally. And that one's not going to branch. That's dead. Right, so, and even though that one's branched, there's a couple of little active root tips down here, even though that's a long dry root. You can come off as well. Right, so that's what I'm keeping. It's going to have to be potted at an angle like that, yeah, to get these roots all nice and flat. But I can allow it to tip very slightly so that this bulb is not buried. I want the media about there where my thumb is, yeah, so that bulb is slightly high, but if you look at the end of my thumb, it's right on the base of the new growth. So I want that sort of angle across there, and that means that one is just sat on the top, not buried, which is good. And that gives me a sawn off leaf, must have got damaged at some point. Good leaf, good strong leaf. This bulb's only got one slightly damaged and a little small insignificant one, and the last bulb that's just bloomed has got two strong healthy leaves. So I've got a good set of leaves for the sizes of the plant new growth coming, new roots coming, and a viable root system with some active root tips. So that's just now going to stand in water and soak for a few hours to get this as full as possible, and then I'll come back and pot it. So after it's had a flipping good run under the tap and get those bugs off. So I'll be back. Right, time has passed. These have been soaking for some considerable time. They're still brittle, quite honestly, so there could be some snapping, but either way I don't want them in a huge pot, although Brassias do tend to produce what I would call an extensive root system compared with some other Oncidium orchids in the Oncidium alliance, and an extensive root system needs somewhere to go. That's the only reason it's going in a pot that size, is because that system not only needs to go in there now, if it will bend in, but it also is going to need somewhere to go. If you look at the sheer number of roots here that have come out of that one growth, and that growth's going to shoot out again in a minute, yeah? So there's going to be another set here, yeah? There's a set just starting here. It's going to be a lot of root growth on this plant in the not too distant future. Now whether I can actually get these to bend remains to be seen. I'm just going to try and get as many as possible tucked on the inside, which so far is going okay, but I've then got to push the plant down because I don't want it sticking out the top. That one's going to break, I bet. Nope, it bent. And that one, yeah, they've all managed to sort of bend in there, just about. Now, where the new growth's going to come out on here, I don't know. There's a potential swelling there, and a potential swelling there. This bulb is split into two, as I said before, so I will get a new set of roots there, under that portion. But whether this one's going to come out that side or that side, I don't know. The one thing I can see is that they very rarely come out dead centre. They always come out offset from the bulb. So it's either going to go there or there. Toss a coin, because I don't know. But what I'm going to do is tuck the back of the plant as hard back as I can. That's touching the pot. That gives room for the next growth and some space for some roots to get down. This new growth is over there, so we have room. Now all I've got to do is get this to wiggle in round. This is a mix of small and medium bark, and that's based on what it's just come out of, that it was obviously very happy in, wasn't it? One thing that is always worth remembering when you're repotting, if you do some form of dramatic change at that point, you are liable to get a setback of some description. It might not be dramatic, but you're going to probably get something. And sometimes, if you do quite a dramatic change, like changing from moss to chunky bark, you can even lose a root system, although it's more likely to go the other way. Going from chunky bark to moss is more likely, because it's suddenly going from being able to dry really fast to not being able to dry hardly at all. Those are the sort of changes that can cause a problem. Now I'm not filling the pot up yet. I want to make sure that I've got most of the air gaps out. If I leave a couple, it's not the end of the world, but I can't press too hard. These roots are brittle, so it's more a teasing mechanism rather than a ramming. Some roots you can get away with it, but I don't mind seeing a bit of air, but I don't want to see too much. Because it's an extensive root system, the next set of roots that grow on from this point are going to fill any air gaps. They will naturally grow wherever they can, and some of those places will be air gaps, and they'll just fill them up. So it's not the end of the world. Now this set of roots here, I don't mind if the top of the roots show, because if they're going to branch, they'll do it lower down. But what I want is for this plant to be able to stay hydrated. I almost lost a root system not too long ago on a Brassia, because it came out of a pot and went on a mount. Now normally, for me, that's good stuff, but in this case it wasn't, because I ended up with a lot of aerial roots and they just would not hydrate by pouring water over them. The only way I could get them to hydrate was chuck them in the Vander bucket, and it became tedious. Polite version. Having to wait while they were soaking was not good. So I learnt my lesson with Brassias. They like, when they're growing, to stay hydrated, and to do that they need media. Now if you want to put them on a mount, that's fine, and you know, if you've got a reasonable amount of moss around the root base, they'll do fine. It's the next stage that becomes the problem, when they head off into space and your next set of roots don't go down in your moss. That's when the problem seems to occur. Now what I want here, if I can find some, is a little bunch of small bark just round the base of this new growth, because that's new roots coming out there. I can see the nubbins, and what I don't want them to do is run straight up against a giant piece of bark. So that's little bark there, then the root can just push its way through and get into the media, and that's about it. So I've taken a risk. This one, if it comes out that way, it's got room to go down there. If it comes out this way, better, and it'll have room to go down there. This growth has got plenty of room to go, plus room for whatever it does next, which is quite a long way down the line. You're probably looking at a year away there. So from, where's my camera? So from this point, when that becomes a bulb, it'll be sort of here, yeah? And it'll either come out slightly to that side or slightly to that side into this space. So this has got a year and a half, almost 2 years growth worth of space in front of it. This bulb is going to push out a new growth in the not too distant future, either here or here. And in both cases there's room for the roots to get down and room for the bulb to swell up. Just about. The next bulb on here will be on the edge of the pot, but by then this will have done its thing, yeah? So you got to bear in mind, although that's a mature bulb, it hasn't even started its new growth yet, whereas this is already started. So this is probably at least a month ahead of this, whatever comes out here. And by then, this will be up here somewhere. Yeah. So that's it. Far too much bark. Well, I'd better add too much than too little, and have to go and get some more. That now needs a hell of a good soak, but by pre-soaking the plant itself, so I've just seen quite a large air gap down there. I'm just going to see if I can squash that. Ugh. Right down the back of the plant, but those roots are from the front of the plant. They're the ones that wrapped round. That's gone. So, as I say, I don't want to break stuff, but and that you see the back of the plant's just sat on the top. It's not in. The bark at the back of the pot is lower. I don't need this bark up near the top of the pot, so that's okay down there. There's not going to be any new roots in this area. And then I've got my little new roots coming out here, going straight in. These older roots with some growing tips are quite low down. See, there's a growing tip there, snapped off. Can you see it? It was pointing down, it's now pointing up, and it's snapped. But I bet anything you like, just back up that root somewhere, it'll branch. So it's not the end of the world. It would have been better if it didn't happen, but it did. This new root tip's still okay, so's that one, so's that one. So there are new root tips in there that can carry on growing, and plenty more to come in this area. So I'm happy with that. Where's my tag? I'm going to keep that one. Some tags on plants I like to keep, even though I can't even read that properly. It's a memory. That was bought at the 70th anniversary do, where I was invited to the private function in the evening, along with other, well, I was along with the dignitaries. I wasn't one of them. I was an also-ran, a hanger-on. Not even quite sure why I got invited, but nonetheless I was invited and appreciated it. So those two Brassias that I bought on that day out are a memory of that event. along with the videos I put on YouTube, you know, of the day in the orchid nursery and everything. The only thing I didn't film was the private area, and that was more my principles than anything else, because the other couple of people that I went in with, one of them was clicking away merrily taking stills, no videos or anything, but a video's a little bit more personal. Because you move around, you get to see more of an area with a video than you do with a still. With a still, you can just take a picture of an actual bloom or one plant in isolation. But if I'd videoed in that area, then I'd have been showing off the private area. I didn't feel it was my place, so I didn't. So you didn't get to see the wonderful huge specimen plants and the rarities. In that area there is something which for me is very special, because the last time I went in there, it was actually in bloom. As far as I know, there are only 6 Miltoniopsis species, one of which is now extinct in the wild, and I think another one's well on its way as well. So there are very few actual Miltoniopsis species. And in that private area, Sarah's not only got one of them, it's the yellow one. It's the source of all the yellow that goes into Miltoniopsis, that one species, and she's got one. And I've seen it in bloom. But again, due to issues, I didn't take a picture of it. I wish I had. I've got it in here, it's a memory, it always will be, that I saw that one. I hope it manages to survive. It didn't look a very healthy plant, it looked like it was struggling a bit. But anyway, that's that one done. Happy with that. Stick me memory tag in. Not that I would forget what it is, but that's, like I say, some tags are a memory. And I'll see you next time, you know, for the other repots that I'm not going to do this year. Because I'm not doing any repots this year. I finished 2 months ago. So this is not a repot this year. This is it's your imagination. It's a pure fantasy. See you next time. Bye for now.